Amelia, Cassandra Mateo, Rim Smash! Hey everybody, this is Jessie Anime, and today we're going to be talking about ReZero Season 2, Episode 10. Now obviously before I start, I need to remind everybody that there will be spoilers in this review, so if you haven't seen the episode yet, press pause on this video, go watch the episode, and come back. Okay, so the end of last episode was crazy with the Jealous Witch appearing for the first time in the show and her doing her whole I love you, I love you, I love you, I love you, I love you thing, which the way that she said it in Japanese is one of the most intense ways you can say it, which says a lot about her as a character. I love the whole nuance of language and how the translation in the subtitles, I love you, I love you, I love you, doesn't really do justice how intense her confession to Subaru was, because it means a lot more than that, the way that she said it. But I don't know, I just really love the nuance of language and kind of comparing what they say in Japanese to the subtitles, because I am learning Japanese. I have been for almost a year now. It's just interesting to see the nuance of that. But anyways, the Jealous Witch basically kills everybody, and she even swallows up Subaru because Subaru is dumb enough to say to her that he would never love her and he'd rather love any of the other witches than her. And he really hasn't learned what a tight grip the Jealous Witch has on him, because she swallowed him up. He saw a bunch of people's memories, and then he killed himself, and she was like devastated. And he looked at her, and oh, she looks like Amelia, which we always knew that. But anyway, I personally think Subaru's kind of in denial about the resemblance between Amelia and Satella, because he doesn't want that to be the case, but we won't get into that today. So he kills himself. He ends up in the same spot that we've been seeing him going back to every single episode this season. And he wakes up Amelia. He cries. It's her comforting him this time, which is a different change. And I feel like it was the right decision to make this time, because I feel like she feels stronger now knowing that she could comfort someone else. So that was a different way that things went before. And Garfield is less antagonistic this episode, which is a change of pace. And we kind of find out that it wasn't really the witch's stench that was making him hate Subaru. It was that he kept thinking that Subaru was lying to him. So if Subaru was honest and could seem honest on his face, Garfield was fine. So that he finally got down to the nitty-gritty of why Garfield was being so aggressive to Subaru and all the times he really relived the day. And he really is showing his Bakugo-ness in this character. Like, every time I hear the voice and see how aggressive he is, I'm like, that's Bakugo, because it's the same voice actor, and he has a type when it comes to characters he voices. But anyways, he, based on Ryuzu's memories, which we found out during the fight against the Jealous Witch that she has a bunch of clones, he goes to this place and finds a Ryuzu in this like frozen capsule thing. And basically Ryuzu explains that the Witch of Greed basically used the original Ryuzu to like put her soul in, and then when that one would not work, she'd make another to put her soul in, etc., so then she'd be immortal, which sounds familiar, like, you know, the Horcruxes in Harry Potter with Voldemort. But obviously it didn't work out. Ryuzu wasn't really the perfect host for that, and so Echidna wasn't immortal, and Echidna was killed by the Jealous Witch. It didn't work the way that she thought. And so now we kind of know more about the Witch of Greed a little bit and how far her greed will really go. And we now know what's up with the mysterious Ryuzu, because she was just this random girl with pink hair that I had no idea like what her purpose was. And now we know a lot more. This season has definitely been a lot of Subaru gradually finding out more and more and more about the sanctuary, about the rules of the world, about the witches. It's been a season of knowledge versus last season, which was a season of Subaru suffers. Which, yes, he has suffered this season quite a bit, even worse than the previous, but it's not as much of a focus this season. The focus is more on the knowledge that Subaru is gaining about the world and its rules, which I really appreciate, because I always love good world building lore. Now, I have not read the light novels and the manga or anything, so I don't know everything about the extent of the world building lore. I'm learning it as Subaru learns it. but it's really, really interesting. And I don't know, I really think that Subaru's biggest weakness is his blind love to Emilia, because I feel like there are some things that are kind of obvious that he's refusing to acknowledge about her, and that's going to bite him in the ass at some point. But I do love that at the end where he was saying basically that, like, because he knows hell, like, he can do this better than anybody, like, his purpose is to make sure that he's the only one that knows hell and no one else. It's his purpose to protect everybody else. And I think that that is true. Like, Subaru has this insane tenacity that I don't think any other character would have. He started out as this, like, lazy kind of loser kid, and this world has really brought out his strengths, and I feel like the Jealous Witch kind of saw that in him, which might be part of the reason why she brought him there, is his tenacity was intriguing to her. The potential of his tenacity, because obviously he didn't have it in the real world, but I just think Subaru as a character is just such an interesting person, because he's the kind of person you would never expect to be this determined to succeed, this determined to get through all of it. But there's just something about Subaru that makes him able to survive anything, and maybe it's the return by death kind of thing makes you really, really brave, because you know if you make a mistake you can always do a do-over. That might be really what it is, because it kind of seemed like in the real world he was really afraid of failure, which made him kind of frozen in place in his life. But in this, if he fails, he can just die and start over. So he's taking out the part of him that was so afraid of failure. And when you take that part out of him, he's now a brave, tenacious person that he wasn't in the real world. Because in the real world, he was never going to be immortal in this way. So I just think Subaru's a really interesting person. And at the end of the episode, he's determined to go to the mansion by himself. And Garfield lets him, because he finds out that Garfield just hates liars, so he can get away by seeming very honest. And he gets everybody to leave the mansion except he and Beatrice. And at the end, it's very obvious that Beatrice knows that Subaru is that person who can return by death. He is the chosen one, if you will. And so, I don't know, I just really appreciate this episode, and I really just think that Subaru is one of the most fascinating anime characters ever, and I feel like no isekai does it like this, because I feel like every isekai is like a power fantasy, where this guy gets to go to this other world and he gets this to be OP and powerful over everyone else. And I don't feel like that's the case with Subaru. Yes, he is powerful because he can return by death. But I feel like in this instance, this isekai is about how going to this other world makes Subaru the person he was always meant to be. Someone brave and determined. And so, I don't know, I just really love Subaru. I could go in a whole in-depth analysis of him as a character and how great he is. But that is it for today. And I will see you on Saturday, where I make a video about why I no longer like Sword Art Online. Bye!